Hello everybody, it's Ginger on Wheels again. Welcome back to another episode where we get to test and review the latest electrically wheeled gadgets. Today we're going to be talking all about the Kingsong S22 electric unicycle, the best way to beat high gas prices and have fun doing it. The landscape for this wheel's changed quite a bit since its initial release, from the firmware update to the name change, so buckle up and get ready for an excellent ride. Well, here it is in all of its glory, the sexiest unicycle on the planet. Formerly known as the Kingsong S20 in the pre-production release, this wheel has received a major facelift in the wake of recent disaster. There have been quite a few upgrades to the wheel since then, and there's still an insane amount of hype over the wheel, so today we're going to examine this gadget a little closer to see if it's a wheel you should even consider buying. I'll try my best to cover everything on this wheel, from the seat to the suspension and speed. Big thanks to Alien Rides for sending this demo wheel for review. I try my best to give unbiased opinions on this channel, so the best thing you can do to support this type of work is clicking on the affiliate link in the description. Did I mention that Alien Rides is the only PEV retailer with a 2-year limited warranty? Now this is the only wheel to date that comes with a set of aggressive power pads, spiked pedals for extra grip, a seat, and a built-in kickstand. Those extras right there shave a couple $100s off what you'd normally have to pay to dial in an EUC to your liking. The plastic kickstand will likely break off on your first hard fall, but it's so refreshing to see a wheel with this cool new feature. I wasn't a fan of the side pads on the other S20 demos I tried, but if you put Velcro on the pads and on the side of the wheel, then you can reposition them depending on your footwear, or if you just want to let a friend borrow the wheel. Now, while none of the included extras are particularly top-end, it's definitely possible to reposition them into something you can get used to. After all, I filmed this entire video with the stock setup. Now, one of my favorite things about this EUC is the tire. It's extra wide, has medium depth knobbies, and they generate much less road noise compared to the Kenda tire on my other EUCs, and as a heavier rider, I noticed an insane amount of traction in the mud and loose dirt. Despite the wheel being somewhat top heavy, I also noticed the wide tire picking up a lot of slack to make the wheel feel more stable when riding. I weigh around 220 pounds right now, and I've never had any issues with the tire except for one small thing. The wide tire feels like it decreases the turning radius of the wheel by quite a bit. It seems like you have to lean the wheel a lot more to reach the edge of the tire to initiate a turn, so you'll likely scrape the pedals on sharp turns, or you're more likely to clip the pedals on obstacles if you're off-road. Though at cruising speed or in thick mud and gravel, there is simply no competition. Now, this wheel is actually fairly water resistant by design. The two 6-pin charge ports located underneath the display are very protected by the fender. They won't get wet and short out like I was worried they might when I first saw this wheel. Now, speaking of fenders, the ones on this wheel actually work. You won't have to rock that poopy butt look when you're done with rides in the rain. And unlike other wheels, you don't have to spend a day waterproofing it by literally drilling weep holes into the side shells to drain the water out. Assuming you have the stock seat on top, there are actually very few ways for water to get into this wheel, assuming you don't lay it down in a puddle somehow. I personally have ridden this wheel through torrential downpours at 40 miles an hour with no issue. Both the wheel and I were completely soaked by the time we got home, but everything still works fine. For the record, I don't recommend riding in the rain, especially if you're a customer in the first batch. We all saw what happened to that New York S20, but here in Seattle, occasionally getting trapped in the rain is almost inevitable. As you've seen from the footage in this video so far, if you know what you're doing on an EUC, the S20 can pretty much tackle any terrain. With the exception of extremely steep off-road sections or going upstairs, the combination of tire width, suspension, and spiked pedals make it a really versatile wheel. But like I said earlier, the wide tire does lead to more pedal scrapes and clips, and to be quite frank, the wheel's just kinda hard to get going. Even with my weight, I feel like I really have to lean into the provided pads to get the power out of the wheel. It's not like my RS high torque wheel, which simply floats up hills with very little user input. With this wheel, the power is there, you just really have to lean into the pads to extract it. The wheel boasts a nominal voltage of 126 volts, which seems to help with top speed, but unfortunately there just aren't enough battery cells in parallel to provide the type of torque we're used to from other brands. Now let's talk suspension. The D&M RCP2S is a great fit for this wheel. It features adjustable compression, rebound, and preload with oil and a 550-pound spring. It's a great all-around shock for most people, though I did notice about a 30% standing sag with my 220-pound weight. I suspect if you're between 150 and 200 pounds, this shock will be perfect for you. It does a great job at absorbing larger impacts, which I assume is what it's for, and it makes seated riding in bumpy areas much more comfortable. I did get a chance recently to ride the Kingsong S18 with its air shock, and I will say that the air suspension on that wheel does a much better job at absorbing smaller bumps and feels more like a pillow. I've noticed on the S22 that the suspension felt squishy at first, but hardened up quite a bit as I put more miles on it. I read that this is likely due to resistance caused by the inner frame sliders getting chalked up with dirt or road debris, but Kingsong has mentioned that they'll be addressing this problem in production models. It still absorbs large impacts like potholes really well, but it no longer feels as pillowy as it looks. Even so, this is the first unicycle I've tested with real suspension, and it makes me feel like I've got superpowers. It inspires me to do crazier things than I normally would because I know the shock is there to absorb most of the stupid mistakes I'm gonna make. Whether it's jumping off ledges or flying down stairs, having a wheel with suspension like this is a dream come true for most riders. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the suspension piece and the attached swing arms aren't lightweight. They're about 2.5 kilograms or 5 pounds of weight hanging off the back of the wheel, which takes some getting used to. For this reason, I recommend recalibrating the wheel with a slightly forward lean to compensate. I also noticed that the forward lean recalibration makes seated riding much easier too, because you can sit upright instead of leaning forward all the time. Speaking of seated riding, the included seat on this wheel really isn't that bad. It's low profile and made from a somewhat firm compound, and it takes about an hour for my butt to get sore when sitting on it. The rear portion of the seat does hang off the back end of the wheel a bit, but if you scooch forward, then it's not hard to compensate for that. I also recommend attaching the seat with Velcro for easy removal, but I feel like the seat adds to the aesthetic of the wheel, so I keep it on all the time. Seated riding on your EUC isn't like a chair where most of your weight is on your butt anyways. With seated EUC riding, your weight is split evenly between your butt and your feet, which are leaning forward into the front of the spiked pedals. Spiked pedals, which do, by the way, come with the wheel. They're about 11 inches long and 4.5 inches wide and fit my size 13 feet much better than the tiny smooth pedals on other wheels. Seriously, the pedals on this thing are really nice considering their stock. And the best part is that they're adjustable. You can move them up and down into preset holes to suit your preference. The YouTube channel Wrong Way has also mentioned that you can swap the left and right pedals to get a more forward stance, which helps compensate for the weight in the rear of the wheel. Either way, I admire Kingsong for implementing a new design with aggressive pedals on this wheel. So, like most other gadgets, there's also two headlights on this wheel, both of which have an adjustable angle. You can point them down if your wheel's tilted back, or up if your wheel's tilted forward to keep the lights shining bright in the same spot. And when you first turn on the wheel, Kingsong has these lights set in automatic mode, which means that they turn on by themselves if it gets dark enough, and they turn off in more well-lit scenarios. There's also a small button by the charge ports you can press to switch off the automatic mode and turn it into on or the off positions. When the headlight is on, it'll progressively get brighter by itself the faster the wheel's rolling, so the throw of the headlight will match your speed. It's a pretty cool feature if you ask me. There's also a brake light which will turn on when you're slowing down, and turn signals that'll flash in the rear when you change the tilt of the wheel to the left or right. It's worth noting though that if you're braking while turning, all you get is the brake light, no turn signals. Like you've seen, this wheel is excellent for both on and off-road. The seat makes it great for long cruises, and the taller pedal height and suspension seem like they're almost a must for off-roading. The wheel can easily cruise at 40 miles an hour and has a 40-mile range at more conservative cruising speed. That being said, there are some things that I hope Kingsong can iron out before the production model is here. The lack of torque. The wheel requires a lot of lean to get going, and it really struggles on steep off-road terrain unless you're carrying a lot of momentum into the hill. I'm not sure if this is related to the battery they used or the firmware they programmed, but the torque simply doesn't compare to most Gotway or Begode models I've ridden. Also the display. It's big and beautiful, but it only shows your speed in kph. It doesn't show any other useful bits like the battery voltage or tripometer. Considering how seamlessly integrated the display is into the top panel and through the seat, it just seems like a bit of wasted real estate to me. I also hope that the kickstand and front bumpers are made from a higher grade material on the production wheels. The thin plastic on the kickstand is just not okay in my book. You can expect that it will break off on your very first hard fall. Luckily, Alien Rides has printed a 3D bumper that you can get for the front. Though Kingsong has said they'll be replacing the front bumper with a stronger material in the production models, I'll believe it when I see it. Also, one other weird thing, the wheel will stop working and give a low voltage tilt back when the KingSong app is showing 20% battery remaining. I'm assuming this is a firmware issue, but even then, it seems like a pretty easy fix from KingSong that just hasn't been addressed yet. Next up is the trolley handle. At least in these pre-production models, it was really difficult to put up and down, and although it does work, I think the forward position just hinders movement a little bit. And lastly is the cutoff switch. It's located inconveniently underneath the back portion of the seat, and it's actually harder to reach for than the on-off button, so I found myself using that more often than not. It's a cool idea, but the placement's just terrible. Overall though, I had an excellent time reviewing this wheel. There's no doubt that it's a head turner, and I got questions about it almost everywhere I went. It's an excellent cruiser if you don't need to go over 50 miles of range, it goes plenty fast, and the suspension makes off-roading feel like a dream compared to other non-suspension wheels. I love the included extras like the seat, kickstand, side pads, spiked pedals, and adjustable headlight, and I feel like it's the most ready-to-go wheel out of the box. For 99% of riders, this wheel will make a great upgrade to the arsenal of wheels that I'm sure you already have. I believe it's well worth the price, and once the production wheel is released with the upgrades I mentioned in my last range test video, it'll be an excellent wheel to own that can stand the test of time. Well, that's all I've got for you today on the KingSong S22. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you're interested in this wheel, feel free to click on the affiliate link in the description to learn more or to pre-order from Alien Rides now. Until next time, Ginger on Wheels over and out.